Hello everyone, welcome back to How Stuff in My Cockroach channel. If you watch our previous two videos, you already know how the intake and the compression stroke works. Today's video is about how the power or combustion stroke works, which is called either or. No different than the previous two videos, I'm going to bring the camera up close so I can explain what happens during this very important phase of a 4-stroke gasoline engine. So let's take a look. So super fast, before getting started on the power stroke, we're going to do a very short recap on the previous two. Intake stroke, the intake valve opened, piston traveled down, air and fuel mixture entered the cylinder, and once the piston reached the bottom and the entire cylinder was filled with air and fuel mixture, the intake valve closed. Then on the compression stroke, the piston went up, both valves were closed, and it compressed all of this into this small section which is called the combustion chamber. So that's what happened in the previous two. Now this one, the power or combustion stroke, is really the most important of them all. Without this, the engine wouldn't operate. The reason why is because during this stroke is when the power takes place. Obviously that's why it's called power stroke. So now, no different than the compression stroke, both valves are still closed, and when the piston reaches the top dead center or slightly before, a few degrees depending on how you advance the ignition timing, the spark plug is going to receive high voltage through the spark plug wire that is going to be connected either to a distributor if it's an older engine, or a coil pack if it's a more modern engine, or even yet from its own ignition coil that is going to be mounted directly on top of the spark plug. That of course is the most efficient way when each cylinder has its own coil. Most modern engines are that way. That way the computer can control each one individually, and having its own coil is going to get the most current, which you're going to need at least 50,000 volts. Another thing to consider, the higher the compression the engine has, the stronger the spark needs to be. The reason why is because this is current that's coming in here. So the way it's going to turn into a spark is, this is a positive electrode right here in the center, that's where the current is traveling. This other electrode of the spark plug is a negative electrode. And the reason why it's a negative electrode is because it's making direct contact with the cylinder head, which in turn is grounded to the frame or the body of the vehicle, depending on the manufacturer. So voltage needs to jump across, and there's going to be different gaps. For older engines that used to have point systems, the gap in between these two is around 35 thousandths of an inch. Motor engine with more powerful ignition systems, they could go all the way to 60 thousandths of an inch gap. The wider the gap right here in between the two electrodes, the stronger the current needs to be. Plus, if you have a powerful spark, then it's going to be able to ignite this air and fuel mixture, and that's why I did these different colors. You know, here is exemplifying the unburned mixture. This right here, how I drew it, so it's a flame that's taking place. So when this mixture ignites like that, it creates like an explosion, so to speak, you know, if we had to put it in different terms, that is going to send a lot of power to the piston and is going to be pushing it down. And all of the factors that I explained are going to determine what kind of force this piston is going to receive to be pushed down. So obviously engines with higher compressions and powerful ignition systems are going to definitely send this piston with a lot more force than an engine that has low compression or a weak ignition system. Plus, we also mentioned before that you can have turbocharged engines or supercharged engines. And when you add a supercharger or a turbocharger, not only the engine is taking advantage of its natural design of allowing air and fuel mixture to enter, but it's also taking advantage of more air being forced into the cylinder, which is going to create a lot higher pressure right here, and there's going to be a stronger combustion when the spark receives the current. And as we know, this up and down movement of the piston is converted into rotational movement because it's directly connected to the crankshaft with the connecting rod. And then remember, this happens thousands of times per minute. So for example, at a 4,000 RPM range, that means that this spark plug is getting current 2,000 times per minute. That is how fast things are happening inside your engine. And that's why it's so crucial for everything to be working correctly. That way you have an engine that has tons of power and extreme reliability. So if any of our viewers didn't know how many times per minute this takes place, now you know, and now you have an understanding of how critical it is for everything to work well. And now that you understand this, it's very likely that you're going to give the builders of these engines more credit, realizing that if the engines that are produced were not designed as well as they are, they would fall apart within 100,000 miles, maybe even less, of the reliability needed from all the parts involved. A couple important factors involved in the combustion stroke. When the RPMs start getting higher, the ignition timing is going to be advanced either by a distributor or the computer, depending on the engine. And this is going to be in degrees. And sometimes you even adjust the timing anywhere from 5 or 10 degrees before the piston reaches the top. At higher RPMs, it could go all the way to 35 degrees. And there you have it. Now you know how the power or combustion stroke works. And on the next video, we're going to explain how the exhaust stroke works. Thanks for watching. See you next time.